I, Stephanie, am going to be featured on Play on Tabletop. Let me give a little background. A few weeks ago, I went to Adepticon, and when I was there, I met Nick from Play on Tabletop, and we got around to talking, and he invited me to be on their channel for a couple of battle reports. Play-On is one of the largest content creators in our community, making extremely high-quality battle reports of Warhammer 40k, Conquest, Star Wars Legion, various skirmish games, and more. If you're here on my channel, it's extremely likely that you've already heard of them. And I personally have been a fan of theirs for a very long time, and their battle reports have become part of a Saturday morning routine in my family. In other words, this is a huge freaking deal to me. After discussing kind of like what the plan was, what we were gonna do, it was decided that we were gonna do 2 battle reports, and since 10th edition is right around the corner and Games Workshop is saying that every combat patrol is supposed to be balanced against every other combat patrol, we thought it would be really cool if we did a couple battle reports using just combat patrols. So one of them would be for my Votan, and I thought that was going to be really easy because everything for my Votan is already painted. I had said that I also had Space Wolves, that would be cool. And in my head, I was thinking, okay, I have like about 15 painted intercessors. I have 5 Reavers, and all I would need to paint from that combat patrol is the Dreadnought and the Lieutenant. So I was like, that's totally doable within the 6-week time period, no problem. But then I started looking at my Space Wolves, and I'm not hating on them. They're fine. They don't really hold up now. I can do much better now. So that's what this video is going to be. They're going to be starting from scratch, painting the entire thing in time for my feature. And although I have a feeling this is going to be a little bit stressful because I have 3 kids and I don't have a lot of hobby time and the timeline is pretty tight, we're gonna try our best. I have always felt like the Space Wolves Combat Patrol is like a half-hearted attempt at a Space Wolves Combat Patrol. There are not any Space Wolf specific units in it at all. And all it comes with are the 2 little upgrade sprues that don't really get you very far. They don't come with a whole lot, but I had big plans to fix that. I'm going to be on Play on Tabletop. I want them to look very, very, very nice. I'm not talking golden demon standard or anything, but I want every single model that I put down to be one that I'm proud of. So the first thing we needed to do was do some kit bashing, which for me is quite a challenge because that is not my forte whatsoever. Building in general is not something I really enjoy because I feel like, or I felt like, there wasn't many outlets for creativity, and it's just, you know, you follow the instructions and you do it step by step, and it just doesn't appeal to me. But I will just say I had the time of my life building these wolves, okay? I got into some old kits of mine from out in the garage. I was like, okay, we're gonna see what we have. So I did a combination of things. I found these old bits and I made little loincloths out of just bits of fur that were hanging off other things. I just took my X-Acto and shaped them into the way that I wanted them to be, fit them on. Most of the time it worked out pretty well. So the day that I started building this combat patrol, I got a message from Greytide Studio who were just about to release their Primal Hounds bits. Essentially, they wanted to send me a bunch of Space Wolf bits, and they got here within a couple of days. I was able to incorporate these bits into the builds. This is where my mood about like kit bashing and third-party bits and building in general just completely changed because it was so much fun to figure out like what I was going to use. The shoulder pads that came in this kit were absolutely gorgeous. They came with a bunch of really like feral, wild looking heads. I used as many of those as they sent me. The heads were great. They had the loincloths. It was so much fun, and I was so excited to get paint on these. What is up, everyone? So we are now 5 weeks until my feature on Play on Tabletop. I have gotten everything built this week, so the whole combat patrol is ready to go. I was looking through different tutorials on how to do like snowy and ice bases. I found this amazing one that I will link below. What I'm going to do is be taking slate chips. You can just get these on Amazon, and I'm going to be using blue stuff to make mold of the slate chips and then pour the UV resin into those molds to make what will appear as glaciers. So just take my little UV torch, and actually as I was doing this, my husband was like, you know, we have a curing chamber in the garage, right? And I was like, no, I didn't know that. So that expedited things quite a bit. It was pretty simple overall. This was my first time doing anything like this. This is my first time using blue stuff, making molds, like doing the whole thing. I used a very cool color palette of purples and blues and whites to make these kind of gradients on the actual bases themselves that would be visible through the glaciers. So all I did was just put them on there and do a little wet blending, and I actually had a lot of fun with this, especially on the big base for the Dreadnought. It was so much fun to put the colors on there and blend them all together. It reminded me of 7th grade art class, and that was always my favorite class. We just got to do all kinds of stuff like that. I really enjoyed it, and it was very unstructured and just kind of creative and fun, and I don't know. So after they were all painted, then I started fitting the glaciers on in a way that looked cool. And as always with anything that I am doing, my goal is not realism. It's just to look pretty, essentially. So I wasn't really focused on making the glaciers look like perfectly realistic. I just wanted to put them in a way that, first of all, would be easy to then place intercessors on top of them afterward, but just that looked cool to me. After everything was glued, then I gave everything a good dry brushing with white to make it look a little cracked and a little bit snowy. And then I distributed some white texture paste around the edges. And then I actually used this really cool crackle paste along the edges on areas that I felt looked a little too unnatural, where there was like a stark line in between snow and glacier. I used the crackle paste on top of it to just kind of blend it out and make it look better. After I had done this, it looked okay, and they didn't actually come out to be super perfect the way I wanted, but I thought they were good enough. I am now 3 weeks out, and I am making absolutely incredible progress. The painting process has been pretty smooth so far. It has felt absolutely amazing to return to this old project that I started over a year ago, but having more skill and confidence in my choices that I'm making when I'm painting. I actually watched my old Space Wolves painting tutorial, and it was super cringy, and I have made several changes since then. Although I'm still using the exact same colors, the method is quite different. So back then I was priming them black, and then I would take whole red as a thick glaze and work it over the black before starting to actually paint them. And I actually found this whole red primer by Scale 75 that has saved me so much time, because they are primed and base coated in one step, which has been fantastic. And instead of taking the Oxford blue, watering it down and kind of puddling it on, I just dry brushed it. And because the Oxford blue doesn't show a whole lot through the layers that go on top of it, I found that it doesn't really matter if there's a little bit of dry brushing texture over it, because you won't even really see it. So those 2 steps alone have saved me an incredible amount of time. The last change is that the paint that I'm using isn't nearly as watered down as it was when I made my tutorial and painted my first batch of Space Wolves. So before, I was watering down the paint so much and doing wet stippling to make the layers and the blends. And now I'm just kind of going in with the next color in the order that I did before, but just having more confidence and not feeling like I need to water it down a lot. I feel like when you water paint down a lot, the risk is a lot lower, because with watered down paint, you have to keep making the same mistake over and over and over again for it to actually make a difference on the model. Whereas when your paint is more opaque, then each brushstroke matters a lot more. But I'm okay with that, because I'm more confident in my color placement and my light placement, and I just feel myself having, like I said, more confidence in what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. So the process is a lot faster than I had originally anticipated, and so I'm feeling really, really good about it. I decided not to put helmets on any of my guys because I wanted them to look really Space Wolfy, and I wanted you to be able to see their faces on the table to make it more cinematic, but that is taking me a little bit of time to go through and make sure that I am painting each face to a standard that I'm happy with. But overall, I think it's going to be worth it, and I am really happy with how everything is turning out. Remember how earlier I said that I had a feeling this was going to get a little bit stressful at some point? Well, we're there. We're definitely there. And I feel like there are a lot of different components that are making me feel this way right now, so I'm just going to talk about them, and maybe I'll feel better after listing them out. Number one, I still do not have access to 10th edition rules or data sheets for my armies. So I am basically going into this without ever having played a game of 10th edition in my life. And I know that it's supposed to be a lot more pick up and go and more simplified than 9th edition. However, it still makes me feel nervous to some degree because I'm the type of person who likes to be prepared going into something. I don't like wasting other people's time, and I really don't like when other people think that I am incompetent. So I study things and I know things and I understand game mechanics and have a plan, and all of those things are just not going to be possible for this feature. This is very stressful, and I thought that I would have more time with the rules before playing in front of many people, but I guess that's just how it's gonna be. Number two, when you are a parent, a full-time parent, it is really hard to figure out how you are going to get time away. What I mean is there are a lot of moving pieces. Anyone who has kids understands you cannot just willy-nilly hop on a flight and leave. And my partner is very supportive, but it involves him taking time off of work to watch our kids, flying in a relative to help with the kids because we do not have any help in our town that we are living in. And just like logistic things, like I have to be pumping a lot so that my husband has milk to give to the babies while I'm gone, and just all of those things, like figuring out how, even though my husband is taking time off work, how we're gonna do drop off and pick up for my older son from school when it coincides with the baby's nap times, and just like all of these things where when there's two of us it's a lot easier, and when it's just one person it feels kind of impossible. Number three, this is probably the biggest one, is that I do not like my dreadnought. I know that it doesn't look bad, and I'm not like here fishing for compliments and trying to get any sort of feedback on it. It's not that it looks bad, it just doesn't look like my work. And I think the reason for that is I got a little bit carried away with the weathering. It might appeal to a wider audience than my usual content, but something about it, I don't like it. And because this is such a large feature, I want my army to look like my work. And I don't have enough time now to redo it or fix it or really alter it at all because I still have a lot of stuff that I need to get through before I leave. So I'm just gonna have to leave it and just get over it, I guess. I mean, there's no other option really. Finally, something kind of unexpected has happened, and I don't even know how to say this. So I thought that this was going to be a summer release, and I did not expect this to be a spring situation. So this is throwing me off a little bit. I haven't been able to contain myself, and I have been working on these. And I know, it's ridiculous, and I need to keep my eye on the prize here. But I have been wanting this for so long and been so excited about this release. And it's here. And so I've been painting my Slan Master, and it's really messing with my timeline. I feel like I definitely could have been finished painting all the stuff that I needed to have finished by now, and I just need to get my act together. So yeah, that is where we're at as of right now. I am very excited, but all the logistics are starting to really impede on that excitement because it is a lot to make this kind of thing happen. Overall, I know that when I get there, it's going to be fine. They're going to be so nice, and we're going to have so much fun, and all of my worries will just float away. Yeah, I will see you in part 2 of this video, and I hope that you enjoyed seeing the events that are leading up to this feature. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.